me know that whether this link is coming through. Sorry, the sound is coming through. Okay, just pop that in the chat. And look, guys, as we go through the content today, sounds good. Thank you, people. As we're going through the content, I'm going to have some time for Q&A as we at the end, definitely. But feel free to just pop any questions in the Q&A. Please, I think we've got like 3,000 people registered today. Please, just so I can find the questions and get to them all, just pop them in the Q&A as opposed to the chat. Feel free to ramp up the banter in the chat though while I'm chatting. Please be kind. So guys, today we're talking about money mindset, and I think it's a funny thing that when it comes to money, a lot of people think that money success is about choosing good investments, and obviously choosing good investments is important. But it's only one part of the picture. You know, to be successful with your money, you've got to have the right money mindset, which is what we're talking about today. You've got to have the right strategy, risk management, the confidence, you know, all of these things that they all form parts of the puzzle there. And money mindset is definitely one of them. So I'll talk about some of the, I suppose, the inherent flaws that we tend to have as people, and some of the things that you can do to be aware of them. I think awareness is really the key here in I suppose like having the right money mindset in place. But also I'm going to share with you some frameworks that you can use to make it easier to hack your thinking and get the right results. So guys, yes. So, and look, for the guys that are jumping on now, I can see there's a bunch of people on the line. I am gonna have, there's a bonus gift that I've got for people that watch through to the end. But for the people that are super enthusiastic and here nice and early, which I love and appreciate, I put a little hint to that in the chat box. So feel free to follow through the rabbit hole there if you're interested. Otherwise, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that at the end. So firstly, massive shout out to event partners, Raiz Invest. They've thrown a bunch of support behind this session, total champions over there with the team, as well as General Assembly, obviously in hosting it and pulling this all together. So well done. Get around it. If you're not familiar with those guys, would strongly encourage you to give them a good look up and stalk online, because they are both of these companies doing some pretty cool stuff. So, look, guys, just before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the presentation today, please don't rush out and make any life-changing decisions off the back of what we cover. I strongly encourage you to seek out personalized advice before making any big decisions. This stuff is all important, so you should be doing that. Anyway, so guys, before talking about, I suppose, specifically money mindset, I just want to talk about some of the common challenges that we see people face when it comes to their money, and definitely ties in with the whole mindset and money psychology piece. Now, everyone's situation is obviously unique, but there are some really common challenges that people face when they're trying to get on the front foot, getting smart with their money and doing the right things with their finances. Now, the first one that I've got here is this information overload. And this absolutely plays into our money mindset, that there are, all the information is just a keystroke or 20 away these days on the internet, but it's almost like we're drinking from the fire hose and you don't know who to listen to or who to trust. A lot of conflicting points of view, hidden agendas, mixed messages. You end up sort of stalled. The next one that I've got here is this no balance and struggling. Everyone wants to live a great lifestyle, and people want to get ahead with money, but you don't want to do it at the expense of being able to live the life that you want. So people really struggle to find balance between how do you get ahead at the rate that you want, where you and at the same time live the lifestyle that you want. And then the third one that I've got here is the fear, FOMO, which is, everyone knows, is the fear of missing it out. And then we've got FOFU, which I've currently got a trademark pending on this, which is essentially the fear of fucking it up. And it's, again, really common for people. The bigger the decisions get, the more important the decisions get, whether it's money or anything that you're talking about, bigger decisions, that the fear, and I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Maybe it's Facebook's fault, or maybe that's the wrong channel. Maybe it's Snapchat's fault or something. But we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do make the right decisions every single time, but that can a lot of times, it compounds the pressure for us to feel like we need to be able to get it perfect from the start, and it's not always possible. So I found that leads people to get stuck, and it's not all stuck doing nothing, but sometimes it's stuck just doing the same thing that you've been doing in the past. And what that means is that you're missing the opportunity to be getting better results, to be getting more out of what you've got here, what you've got now. So there are 3 elements that you need to get it right, and the mindset and strategy, the mindset and psychology plays over all of these different areas. But as a refresher for anyone that hasn't sort of sat in on some of the previous sessions here, that the 3 elements that you need to get right is structure, strategy, and solutions. Now, your structure is about making it easy to save and making it easy to manage your money, making it clear how much money you've got to work with when it comes to strategies like investing, debt reduction, saving, whatever. That ties into the next element, which is the strategy. And that strategy is about making sure you've got clear goals and targets, that you understand the pathways that can take you from where you are to where you want to be. And importantly, that you can see where you're headed, that you're happy with those outcomes, and that you're maximizing all of the opportunities that are along the way that you can be doing to get the most out of what you've got. The third element is about the solutions. And what I mean by solutions is, and I was running out of S words by this time, but essentially the investments and product solutions that back up your strategy. So making sure you get that reliable, consistent progress over time, and avoiding the chances of downsides and setbacks and those momentum killing mistakes. So, we found that those 3 elements, that you need to get all 3 of them right. If any one is missing, it ends up dragging on the others and ultimately taking away from the results that you get. Like, the power of the 3 together is much more than any individual ones put together. Now, if you've got a good structure and strategy, but bad investments, you end up blowing up your cash. Good strategy, good investments, no structure, you're working with a leaky bucket. Good structure, good solutions, no strategy, you're leaving a lot of money on the table and confidence as well. So you need to get all 3 elements right. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the hacks that you can use and the frameworks to do that as we go through the content today. So why this is important though, and just to give you some context, because I find that I'm going to share an example with you here. And I find that a lot of people think when it comes to money or investing that you need a huge amount of money to get started, or you need to have an enormous amount of savings capacity, or I suppose money that you can throw behind investments to get great results. But it's actually not really the case. Now, what I've got here is as an example where you basically start with $0 today. So $0 in your savings account or your investment account, but you have the ability to save $1,000 every month. So you save $1,000, then you get that money and you invest into the share market average. So you're investing into, say, the Australian, the ASX 200, or like a diversified international portfolio. The returns are all broadly the same, which is around sort of 8.7%. Now, what that shows is, if we look at how it pays over time, that for the first 10 years, so you put in $1,000 a month, which is $12,000 a year. Over 10 years, it's 120 grand that you put in. But because you've got some returns, and this 8.7% return is a return on the Australian share market over the last 20 years. In fact, at the moment, it's actually above 10%, which with all the back of the COVID stimulus and government stuff that's been happening. So 8.7%, what I'm getting at is a very reasonable return. Look, the past doesn't predict the future, and obviously I'm not here and this conversation not happening, but it does give us a pretty reasonable yardstick in terms of what to expect broadly in the future. So first 10 years, you put in 120 grand, but you've now, with the growth and dividends and stuff on the shares, you've got $190,000. That growth and dividends is reinvested. I sometimes get that question when I do this presentation. But then over the next 20 years, you put in another 120,000, so a total of 240,000, and you've now got $642,000. So you see, we're getting almost 3 times what you put in initially. After 30 years, you would have put in 360,000, so 120 times 3 decades, 360,000. Now you got $1.7 million, and $1.7 million is like 5 times this return. 40 years, 480,000, 4.2 million. Now, got a couple of comments there in the chat box to not have that you don't have 40 years left. And look, yeah, obviously this is extrapolated out over a long period of time, but whether you've got 40 years, 20 years, 30 years, 5 years, you can see that the biggest benefit, every single time period, we're getting more than doubled. Here it triples, here it more than doubles, here that more than doubles again. So the sooner you get started, the sooner you start getting results, and the better the results that you'll get at the time that you actually want to access your investments. And that's why you need to overcome your money mindset, because our money mindset forces us to either self-sabotage or stagnation or inaction, and that none of these results are going to happen. If you wait 10 years, you see the cost. You see the cost to that over time. Now, Michelle's asking, what do you do to people to save under $1,000 a month? Look, I just picked $1,000 because it's a round number. It doesn't matter what the number is. I used to do $10 a day, and that's $3,650 over the year. You can start small, be consistent, and build your momentum. The results are all linear. If you can save $2,000 a month, everything here is doubled. If you can save $500 a month, every number on here is halved. So it doesn't matter what that number is. That's how you build the momentum. And guys, it's important to call out with this stuff. This is just investing in a share portfolio. It doesn't include things like property, where you can actually borrow money to invest, where you can accelerate your returns over time. That you can see the results that are there. Got a question on where do we get 8.7% from? Well, look, that's the over 20-year return on either the US S&P 500. If you look at the S&P 500 today, the 10-year return is over 10%. The 1-year return is significantly higher than that. So it's a pretty reasonable long-term return. It's the same on the Australian share market or any the MSCI global index. If you look at that, it's all the same. It's all the same, so very reasonable, and in fact probably unders in terms of what you can expect over the coming years. So guys, look, just getting into some of the challenges around money psychology. That the first one here is that we're pleasure seeking. We for humans will prioritize pleasure in the moment over delayed gratification that happens at some future state. That happens with it can happen with like a spending spree, not investing. It also comes from things like eating. And that's why, generally in Western cultures in particular, that, saying no to that extra treat at dessert time or the less nutritious meal versus the healthy like garden salad or something is hard, because we want pleasure in that moment, and we're not good at prioritizing our future self. And that's the second point there, that we can't, and there's a lot of research out there that shows that we just do not identify with ourselves 10, 20, 30 years in the future. And what that means is if you can't identify with that person, you don't want to put in the hard work today that's going to benefit them in the future. You need to actually, in order to be really financially successful, it's about you saying no to things sometimes today to be able to have more options available for yourself in the future. So not being able to identify with yourself with your future self is a challenge. The comfort of the unknown as well, that there's a lot of, we don't want to sometimes get outside of our comfort zone. And a lot of people say that we do, that we push, and, people feel like that they want to feel like they should get out of their comfort zone. But when it comes to really important things like social cues, money, relationships, our behaviors, that it is that comfort of the known is inherent. Wanting to stick to that is inherent in us. The urgent versus important thing is another one where we know money is one of these things that it is really important, but it's never really urgent. Again, I keep tying it back to the health and well-being, relationships, like a bunch of really nutrition, a lot of really important areas that it's easy to skip that gym session today or tomorrow or for the next week and, binge eat on the couch watching Netflix instead. You won't notice that today, although you might feel a bit sluggish tomorrow, but the big impact comes, 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now when, you've got chronic health problems and overweight or whatever those things are. So we need to, again, to be successful with money, you need to prioritize the things that are urgent, that are important over the things that are urgent. And it's easy to let urgent things in life sort of get in the way. The last one that I've got here is that our willpower is really limited. There's a lot of studies, some actually fairly controversial, that show that our willpower is a limited resource. We've got a finite amount of willpower, and once we use it, it's gone. So what that means, and because our Western society in particular, that we're so busy and rushing around, and we've got a whole bunch of competing priorities, that when we're trying to work hard to do well in our careers, to look after our family and relationships, to be healthy and eat well, then things can slip. And it's like if you're doing really well with money, some other areas can slip as well. So you want to set up your money and use structures, and I'll talk about some of those structures today, in a way that you limit the amount of willpower that you need to actually, quote unquote, spend in order to achieve the results that you want. The focus areas, and these are sort of the things that I'm going to cover today, but is really the biases. So money mindset, a bias, which is a way of thinking, heuristics, which is basically mental shortcuts that we make that are really critical to our life, because if we had to process every bit of information that we actually saw, that we would be unable to actually cope on a day-to-day basis. But heuristics that are there, and then limiting beliefs is another one, and this gets a tiny bit woo-woo when it comes to this stuff, but it is absolutely there, that we have these limiting beliefs that impact how we think about stuff and can sometimes cause us to self-sabotage. And then we've got mindset hacks that you can use. We got mindset hacks that you can use to actually overcome those. So look, essentially, and you probably see from that stuff that it seems that with a lot of these things that we're really built to fail. Our psychology works against us in a lot of cases. So it does require some smart, some effort, and some commitment to actually set up your money in a way to hack your thinking and set you up for success. You can hack your thinking. Look, understanding is the first step. Whether it's a bias, a heuristic, or a limiting belief, the first thing that you need to do to get on top of it is to understand what the things are, because that awareness allows you to then start to think about approaches and things that you can do to be more on top of stuff. And then it's what comes next, and I'm going to talk a bit about some of the things that you can do from there. But today, well done building your understanding to get on top of things that that's the place that we need to be starting at. So first thing, biases, which is basically just a bias in the way that we assess and process information. So it'll make more sense when I go through some of the I suppose the different biases that are there. The first one that I've got is loss aversion, and that's one where we're the pain of losing $100 is much stronger to us than the joy that we feel from winning $100. They've done a lot. There's this, all the stuff that I cover today is backed up by a ton of studies and research and PhD professors and stuff that have thrashed out all of this stuff. So you can trust me when I say that it has been sort of tried and tested. That really the loss aversion has been told time and time again that we are worried about losing money more than we are about the potential upside. Now, why that matters when it comes to your money is that when we think about investing, and I see a lot of people that you put in a bit of hard work or sometimes a lot of hard work, and you get your foundation in place so that you can you get the foundation in place that will allow you to save more. You build up a bit of a nest egg, and you're ready to save. Basically, that you're ready to, you're ready to invest rather. And because we're so worried about this loss, that we worry about the pain of losing the money that we've got, that it causes us to just get stalled. That loss aversion is real, and I'll show you how you can overcome that though. The confirmation bias is another thing where we want to validate the information that we hear, that there is certain, we have a thought and then we think, oh yeah, Bitcoin is a good investment. And then every news story that we hear, you want to confirm the information that you've thought, or you say buying property is a good idea. And then you're looking in the newspaper and every story that you see that says it's good, then you're confirming. Or if you say that you don't want to buy a property, say you let sort of that inaction, you fall into that inaction trap and you try to confirm and say that you don't want to do it, then every bad news story that you read, you're like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to happen, and you're looking to confirm what you've got, what you thought, but at the same time you're ignoring the things that are in conflict with your viewpoint, which means that you're getting a one-sided story, or at least you're telling yourself a one-sided story. Information bias is another one that we see, and this works a lot. We do a lot of work with people that work for tech companies. So the Apples, Googles, Snowflakes, the ones where you're an insider essentially in the company. And this you can, when you do that, you misinterpret the information. You go down to the snack room when we were in the office and you see the fancy snacks and you're like, oh yeah, the company's doing pretty good. So therefore the shares must be doing pretty good. So therefore I'll hold on to my employee share purchase plan things because this company's taking off. And look, sometimes that may be the case, but it's misinterpreting information as the wrong thing. Another really common one that I see for all people that invest is that they will misinterpret what a share price says about an investment, that they say that its share price has gone up, or the share price has gone down, or the share price has been flat, and they'll go, oh, because it's gone up, or because it's been down, or because it's been flat, it's going to go up, down, or sideways. Really, there are so many factors that drive this, and this ties into the next bias, which is oversimplification. That there are so many factors that sit behind what a lot of things are that happen, in particular with money, that we're generally we think that we should know, or we're looking for this simple explanation, and there is no simple explanation. You talk about the share markets, and this is obviously something that we've been seeing a lot with the COVID stuff, that people are seeing the markets go down, seeing the markets bounce back up, and they're looking for what's going on. Is it a COVID? Is it a vaccine issue? Is it a government stimulus issue? The reality is that there are so many factors that are driving what's happening in markets that it's almost impossible for even the experts to pinpoint where this stuff is coming from. In fact, they can't. So this tendency to oversimplify, that we look for the simple explanation, that makes us think that we're experts. Again, that pushes us to make bad investment choices. Hindsight bias is another one. Everybody's an expert in hindsight when you look at what's happened in investment markets, with the share markets, with different investments in particular, that after the fact, it's really easy to say, oh yeah, we should have seen the writing on the wall, or that was really clear. It was clear that the share market was going to bounce back immediately after the COVID slump. It was clear that all these companies were going to rebound and do really well. It was clear that the property market was going to do X, Y, and Z over a period of time. But it's all, again, in our psychology that that's driving this, not really the reality. In terms of heuristics, the heuristics are mental shortcuts, essentially. And I saw a question come up about what these things are. It's essentially that if someone says to you, how far away is the local news agent, you're the way that you process that information to respond to the person is you'll relate it back to something that if you play sports, then you'll say, it's we know that the football field's 100 meters. We'll go, oh, it's 3 football fields away. Or if you look at the size of the room, you want to explain something to someone, you say it relative to the size of the room that you're in. It's a mental shortcut that allows us to process and interpret information more easily. And heuristics are absolutely necessary for our lives, because if we had to do every mental computation totally from scratch, then we would end up overload. We'd fry our the old circuit board in our head. So the heuristics are really important, but when it comes to investing, being aware of some of these ones can lead us to trouble. Now, the first one here is representativeness, and it's basically saying that the one piece of information is representative of all pieces of information. Again, investment markets is one. Can be in terms of strategies, can be in terms of the stuff that you see online, and we see that people talking about certain things that we think that it's representative of a broader viewpoint. Anchoring bias is a bias, but it's a heuristic as well, where you can anchor your thinking back to a certain point. And I see this. I was dealing with a client recently, working for a tech company. The share price got up to a certain point, then it went down. They wanted to sell because they wanted to do some stuff with their money, but they couldn't get past the fact that the share price was down from where it had been, because they were anchored to that number, and therefore they refused to sell. And they even said that they knew that it was silly. They knew that it didn't make sense, but yet the thought was still there. So that anchoring can really, again, push us to make bad decisions, because the thing that we're anchoring to is not really the right driver of what the decision is that we should be making. Involvement as well is another one where we see a lot with tech companies as well, because you're working in the company that you feel that you're involved, then you're there. The interesting studies around this show that people are more likely to bet on the toss of a coin when they're present in the room when it's tossed, or when the coin has yet to be tossed, which is a bit ridiculous, because they're saying that if you walked into the casino or wherever, and they said, "Oh, look, we've just tossed a coin. Would you like to bet on the outcome?" That people will bet less than to say, "We're about to bet on the toss of a coin. What would you want to bet?" So that involvement, again, when you invest, then you think that because you have invested, you are now involved, and therefore you think that you have a better chance of success, pushing us again to make bad decisions. The availability bias is that, again, like we're seeing a lot of stories about what's happening in markets that we think it's like crypto, that we see everybody's talking about crypto, and obviously it has had a massive run. I've benefited a little bit from that, but we see that we're more and more stories about, say, the property market, that you think it's representative of what's going on in the property market. And mental accounting is another one that where our mental accounting, especially when we're spending on credit, our mental accounting is flawed. We underestimate how much we've spent, and as a result, we spend more than what we otherwise would. The third area that you need to be across when it comes to limiting to your money mindset is limiting beliefs, and really the limiting beliefs. And I mentioned that this does get a tiny little bit woo-woo in terms of this approach to stuff, but essentially they're beliefs that impact our way of thinking. And it sort of talks to the fact that basically the limiting beliefs theory says that basically everybody is impacted by limiting beliefs, and everybody has one main limiting belief that impacts them. I'll share with you mine when we get to it, but they're basically things that can impact the way that we think about and assess decisions that we're making. Some of the ones I'm going to give you an overview, and then I've got the top 3 that I see impact people and how you can overcome them. But essentially, the ones that I see, things like I'm not good enough, that you feel that you don't need to, that you don't belong, you need to control yourself, and this again, spending behavior, investing behavior, insignificant, again, that you're feeling a bit powerless, no impact on ability to do stuff, don't have the capacity or ability, that there's a certain way that things are, things like you're powerless to change the outcomes, that again leads to apathy in investing, people not investing, and not being allowed to be capable. So they're all different ones. As I say, it's a bit sort of intense, but they do definitely impact. I think my one's coming up next. But it's there. I'll tell you, I've got these 3 case studies in terms of the main limiting beliefs that I see that impact people. And the first one here is can't trust myself, others, or the world. That's for people that are seeking viability, sense of future safety, avoidance. And what happens, and this is a really common one. I've got a case study for someone that we've worked with, but in reality, this could be a number of people that we've seen, that people identify that there's a problem, but then they don't trust the solution. And this works because obviously my business is financial advice and financial planning, that people come in and they say, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. I know that this isn't working, that isn't working. And they do all this research and they look at the different frameworks and approaches that they could take to do stuff. And they make sure they validate, they make sure that they're right. They do their due diligence, as you should. But then they've done it, even when everything is coming up as it should, that people still don't trust the solution that's there. They want a guarantee of what's going to come up. They want to know what the outcome is going to be. And I think for a lot of times when you invest, when you go through a financial strategizing process, that you don't always know what's going to come up. In fact, if you did, then you wouldn't need to go through it in the first place because you'd already know. We know that the certainty is uncertainty here. And so it's impossible to predict what the world is going to do. We just need to sometimes find that solid process and lean in so that ultimately you do your due diligence, but then you have to trust the process. And I'll give you a framework to use that. Another one that I see, and this is actually, interestingly, it's the main one for women, where but it does impact guys just almost as much, that people seeking self-love and approval. And what happens is that people, and this is one particular case study, but again, it could be any number of, like a bunch of people that we've worked with in the past, that people waste money on status spending. They spend money on other people so that they get a bit more love from them or something. Again, a lot of times this is subconscious, that we don't really realize that we're doing it when we are, but sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, you can see the writing, or you can see it sort of happening. Not prioritizing success. And for this person in particular, we went through a process of planning and identified she had a couple of sort of small debts that were small relative to her income, put a plan in place, and then all excited, but then self-sabotaging, spending too much money, waxing way more than what she had planned for, or said that she'd planned for on luxury items and random stuff that is nice to have, but you finding the balance. And this is what I've got here, is that it's a longer road, that to be successful, you need to make a choice when it comes to this stuff, so that you flexing your money muscle to ultimately do the things that you need and find the right balance between, let's enjoy your lifestyle, but don't spend up here, and especially spending up here on status stuff that doesn't really matter. And then you're eating cat food in retirement. Like, nobody wants that. This is my main limiting belief, is probably the second one. I've got 2 here together: the need to be perfect, and that there is a right way. I know for me, I do this with money stuff, but with my life, with business and stuff, that I feel that there's a way that things should be done. And sometimes I get frustrated or annoyed or angry if they're not getting done in that way. And I need to sort of catch myself. I'll show you some of the techniques that we can use to avoid these limiting beliefs, or to manage them at least. But when it comes to this and it comes to money, that, and I put Mr. Cautious here, but again, there's really actually I can think of 10 people off the top of my head, but we see people that it's pretty common where you're saving strongly, you've got a good foundation in place, but looking to try and make the perfect choice, the perfect investment, the perfect property purchase, the perfect, crunching numbers in spreadsheets or yields and doing all this research, but all along missing the opportunities to start getting more results, to actually start building your money momentum. And look, I think if in this case, you need to sometimes settle for something that's good, as opposed to this magical perfection or perfect way that is really a mirage. Look, some of the mindset hacks, and I'll talk a bit more about how to overcome limiting beliefs, but the mindset hacks that you can use here, the impact first is that, they stop you from investing. The limiting beliefs, in a lot of cases, they drive self-doubt, self-talk, and then inaction. They stop you from getting good help, from getting the right people around you, increase your fear and stress. They push you to choose bad investments. You make irrational choices. You play into the media hype, and they're very good at that stuff. And you fall into the trap of thinking other people are experts. You feel like things should be easier. You spend more money. You get off track more. Self-sabotage causes you to go it alone. You don't prioritize your future self. You don't follow through to actually get the results that you want. And you act in a way that's inconsistent with your real long-term happiness and enjoyment. Ultimately, the result that you get is that slower progress to your goals, and then you cut yourself off from options that you could have otherwise achieved if you'd pushed through some of the mindset stuff and actually made those investments happen, or the money approach happen. So the hacks and things that you can do to overcome some of these psychological flaws and to get on the front foot with your money. The first is that you got to know and recognize that you can't do it all. It's impossible for any one person to know what every single piece of information that drives what makes a perfect investment decision or the perfect choice or whatever. The next one is being aware of the psychology impact and catch your thinking. This one particularly applies to limiting beliefs. So when you see, because you get a sense that you want to do something, you think about taking action, making an investment, putting a strategy in place, putting a plan in place. But then the self-talk starts, and you stop your thinking. You need to stop that, and then think about what's really important. Trust your instincts initially. Breathe. Breathing is a really again a tiny bit woo-woo, but it really stops, and it really is a powerful way to allow us to determine what's really important here and avoid some of that self-talk and self-doubt. You got to then go back to what's really important to you. Is it taking action? Why did you start thinking about that thing in the first place? Why did you start thinking about investing in the first place? Why did you start thinking about getting on top of your money in the first place? And don't fall into the trap of thinking, I can't trust this process, or I can't trust the investment, or I need a guarantee of what's going to happen, or whatever. But instead go, well, yeah, I know I need to do something. So let's set out what the priorities are. Using a tried and tested approach and framework goes a massive way to doing this. So knowing what, making sure that you're using a framework that other people have used successfully in the past is going to give you a lot of trust in the process or in the outcomes that you should work towards. It means that even if you don't know what those outcomes are, then you can still trust in the process, knowing that you're going to be doing something that is going to end up in a good place. Reducing and eliminating conflict is a good idea as well, that you want to, one of the things that can take away from trust or cause self-doubt or doubt in what you're doing is when there are conflicts of interest. So with property, we see a lot of stuff there. Sometimes with accountants, and not most accountants are really good with this, but some of them, sometimes if you're thinking about, say, setting up a trust or different structures, self-managed super fund, for example, if there's a conflict of interest that exists, then it can take away from our confidence to take the action that we're considering doing. Sorry, just to go back to that, one way that you can avoid that when it comes to the professionals that you work with is use a fee only person, because then you know that once you engage them, they're just in your corner and motivated to make you super happy, so that you work with them for a really long time and tell all of your mates. The next one is about building your knowledge, so that you're not just trusting someone or an approach, that you actually understand what the approach is, or what the investment strategy is, or what the plan is, or how you got to the point that you have. Because what that does is it allows you to yes, trust the process, but have to be informed and empowered, and not just blindly trust, which I think is really important. Having a good plan also, it goes a long way to reducing the mindset impact. And this is the planning approach that we use with people, but it's the same approach that anybody needs to use when it comes to planning with your money. Now, The first one here is about focusing in on what's important to you. And this is what we talk about, priorities and the things that you really, really want. That focus in, what does a great result look like? Where do you not want to be for you to feel like you're doing the right things? Then from there, it's about clarifying, all of the different things that are going to impact your plan, understanding the pathways that you've considered, buying that property, paying down that debt, building that investment, building a passive income or a second income stream, and then mapping it out to say, what are the strategies? Now, this is the part that can be tricky to do on your own, because understanding how to model out different scenarios is something that requires a decent level of financial knowledge. But depends. If your situation's super simple, then it's something that you can probably do yourself. If your situation's more complex, then you're probably going to get a lot of value from having someone to help you with that. So strategies first is understanding the financial impact of the pathways, and then going into the levels that sit underneath it and educating yourself around how they work. Now, I think that, again, this is an important part of doing it as part of your strategy, is to know that you've got context in terms of, okay, it's great to know what these numbers look like, but now what are the key things that you need to know to actually put your good strategy in place? From there, it's basically putting it together into an action plan, automating as much as you can, and then keeping on top of things, refining and executing on an ongoing basis to make sure that, the world doesn't stand still. So you need to make sure that what's going on with your money, what's going on with the world, and what you want and how you feel about stuff, that they all remain consistent with the plan that you've set. As soon as one of them changes, you need to change your plan. So look, guys, just before I jump into the Q&A, I just want to share this model, which runs through the different stages that we see people at when it comes to their money. And basically there are three key characteristics that define which stage that you're in. The first one, and basically the first one is how quickly you're getting ahead with your money. The second is how you feel, like how your confidence levels, stress levels, how you feel about stuff. And then the third is that your ability to live the lifestyle that you want. So make the personal choices that you want. So look, it starts from bad and gets to really good, as you probably guessed from the pyramid that's there. But essentially the first stage is for people that are in this distress stage. And for people in the distress stage, that's when you have some, you basically you're not making any financial progress, or you're going backwards. You don't have any money, so you're trapped from a lifestyle point of view. You don't have any money to do the personal choices that you want, and understandably, you're stressed out. Now, what we've found is that you actually can't get out of this distress stage until you make a commitment to your money. Money is one of these things, and I mentioned at the start that it's really important, but it's never really urgent. So it's easy to let it go onto the back burner that just never really comes. So you need to firstly make that commitment. Then the next stage is this stalled stage. And for people in the stalled stage, that's when you're making some financial progress, but it's slow and slower than you would like it to be. You are able to make some of the personal or lifestyle choices that you want, but it generally comes at the sacrifice of getting ahead at the rate that you want. And then from a peace of mind point of view, you're not fully stressed out, but you do have that level of concern or anxiety, that worry, that niggling thought in the back of your mind that there's something that you're missing to be getting, that you could be getting more from in terms of the results. Now, the next stage is comfortable. And for people in the comfortable stage, that's when you're now starting to build some really nice money momentum from a financial perspective. You're able to find a nice balance between getting ahead with your money and living a lifestyle at the level that you want, and you're building a real confidence in terms of your peace of mind and how you feel about your money. The fourth stage is what I very technically called the killing it stage, and that's for people in the killing it stage. The people who are killing it stage, they're basically making rapid acceleration from a financial perspective, that you've got no limits on the lifestyle or personal choices that you can make. And from a peace of mind point of view, you're feeling completely carefree. Now, for as I said, it's a progression. There are some key things to do to get through the stages. The first is that you got to make this commitment. Then the next is to take ongoing action. And it's not just about taking action, because everything is moving so quickly these days that It's not just about doing stuff. You need to do some stuff now, but you need to do that on an ongoing basis. So continue to stay on the front foot, take action, and move things forward so that you can continue to be getting the most out of your money. And then the third thing, to get from the comfortable up into the killing it stage, that's when you need to basically be maximizing every single opportunity that's available to you. So squeezing every bit of juice out of what you've got going on, making sure that you're optimized from a tax perspective, doing the right thing with your investments, that you're basically compounding them all to build the money momentum together. I'm going to leave you with this quote just before we jump into the Q&A, because hopefully you got some great ideas today, but we know that information is not the answer. This quote from Derek Sivers, which is a great one: if information was the answer, we'd all be billionaires with perfect abs, rings so true. It says that you don't need more information. What you need to do is take action, and focused knowledge is the key to getting the confidence to take that action. You guys are taking a big first step today with getting on top of your money mindset. Hope you found those ideas helpful. I'm going to jump into the Q&A, so feel free to pop those into the box there. But look, before I do, for anybody watching along that wants some help to take the next step, we know that it's the first step is really the hardest when it comes to this stuff. But if you want some help, we run these 45-minute one-on-one money breakthrough sessions. We charge a few bucks for them and donate the money to charity. I've set up a special discount, limited the first 20 people only that book through the group of 3,000 odd that have registered for the session today. Bit of a discount from today. As I said, we donate all of the money to our charity partners. We actually just built our 5th house for disadvantaged families in India, alongside saving a bunch of Daintree rainforest and a whole bunch of projects through our partnership with B1G1. For anyone that wants to know more, I've just popped the link into the chat box. You can check it out there. There's a standard one and the discounted sessions that's there. If anyone's got any questions about that, feel free to pop it in the Q&A as well. But basically, these sessions, they are there to help you get clear on your biggest opportunities when it comes to your money. So understanding what's really important and where the potential is for you, getting clear on what the biggest roadblocks are, which are not always roadblocks, but the things that you can do to make it easier to get from where you are right now to the ideal position that you want to be in, and also give you an avenue for some no BS Q&A. Get your questions answered straight from the source. Now, these sessions are really perfect if for people that have got a saving at a decent rate, or a decent chunk of cash that's sitting there that they want to invest, or that they've got good equity in their property, or if you work in tech or with RSUs, ESPPs, and employer share plans. Or if anyone's really struggling with money, if that's you, hit me up. Feel free to hit me up privately on that as well, because these sessions can help you push through to move forward as well. Again, I've got that link there in the chat for anyone that's interested. I'm going to crack into this Q&A. So I've got a question. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but just around having a couple of investment properties, knowing if I should sell one of them and continue to rent it to tenants. I want to buy a beach property to enjoy my senior years. Look, I would say that there is no one answer to that. It's really about mapping it out, because if you can get the beach place, that sounds amazing. I'm pumped. Just let me know when I can come. But you want to make sure that your property purchase is going to be consistent with the other things that you want to do. So again, yeah, it really depends on the numbers. Do you want to make sure? I don't know the answer to that one. For anyone, will you get the presentation? Yes, you'll get the presentation. For anyone watching along, what if you're not in a position to save? I think this one came through when we were talking about the saving and investments. Look, I think you've got to get the foundation in place, and I think for anybody that's here, then I think that you go back through the previous presentations that we've made. We will rip around an email after this with some of these, where I go into the more foundational elements that you need to get right before you start investing, or to create the foundation to invest. So I'd say that that's key, but well done. Money mindset is a big part of being getting that thing right. So Alex, Shelley, sounds like you're on the path there. Neil says, can you explain more experiences to make money? I'm not really sure what you mean there, Neil. Just feel free to pop another question in to clarify there. David says, when you save $1,000 a month, do you mean investing? Yes, sorry, David, save and investing. That example I meant save $1,000 and then invest it into the share market at the same time. So not really keeping heaps of money in cash. Benefits of compound interest are obvious. Would like to know recommendations for investment types and income levels. Tara, sounds like you need a proper robust investment plan, because there's about 10,000 different options that you could use when it comes to investing. Parents, anonymous, my parents never taught me about my money, so what to do? Well, I think you got to educate yourself, take control, and empower yourself. And look, it could go two ways when it comes to this stuff around your parents not educating you about money, because sometimes parents are hopeless with money or they have the wrong behaviors. And if they educate you about those behaviors, then you can be worse off than someone that's not educated you at all. So I would say that, yeah, it could take it both ways, but just take control and take a responsibility, educate yourself, do some research. There's a lot of content out there these days. Check out the Pivot Wealth website. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff up there that goes through this stuff, and that should get you started. Cindy says, listening to this with my aunt, I have a question. 10 years old? I am 10 years old and my name is Vanessa. 10-year-old. Well done, Vanessa. Great work. Allocating some of your time to build up your money knowledge, never too young. So well done. That's I'm super excited about that. Look, when can you open an investment account? The answer is at any time, but for minors, that there are different tax implications that apply for investment accounts. But you can, if you're listening with your aunt could open an account in her name, and you could put money into that and then transfer it to yourself when you're a little bit older. That can help you start building that momentum. Obviously, you've got more than 40 years on your hands, so you can build those millions of dollar bucks out. So well done. Another question. If I start saving $500 a month, where do I invest? If I open a savings account, money market account? Yeah, look, I suppose it depends. It goes back to the strategy. Check out the presentation I did on investment basics, how to build a second income investing. That goes into the considerations there in a bunch of detail. But you've got to choose your strategy, and then find one that aligns with your philosophies, what you want to do, your timeline, all those things. And and that's going to be the right approach for you. Cheers, Cindy. No, you're very welcome. Is there a discussion on investment opportunities we can use depending on your situation? No, I think Preet, sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Check back on the specific investment presentations on that. The heuristics thing, I think that I covered that I saw that one pop up when we were going through that. So hopefully that one's been answered. Let me know, Tina, if there are any further questions on that one. Is there able to listen to this later? Yes, we're sending the recording. Ben, should I invest first or pay low interest debt? Look, I can't give you any advice, obviously, without jumping through a whole bunch of compliance hoops with this stuff. But I think again, it goes back to strategy and the situation. You've got to map it out, pros and cons. I do get though that there is a low interest rate environment at the moment. So a lot of people are going, well, I could be getting X in the share market, or that there's a certain amount that you could be getting from only paying down that debt. Now, it is a tricky one because the interest rates are crazy low. But I think that it really does go back to strategy. Sorry, that's not a more clear answer. Christy says, do you have any suggestions for low-income people climbing out of the poverty level, coming from generational poverty, low credit scores, high debt, low income earning potential, and in their 40s? Look, I would say, Christy, that it's interesting. I've been doing a bit of personal training lately, and my personal trainer was asking me for, he said, what are your top tips for getting on top of your money? And I said to him that it basically went back to spending less than you earn. And I think it is really hard. I totally get that. So not to take away when you've got, at a certain, it's only until you get to a certain level that there is a certain level of necessities that you need to get. But I would say that trying to find anywhere that you can save, maybe trying to lock up money. I find that can sometimes be helpful into like an investment account. Sometimes a little bit that out of sight, out of mind, or even a savings account that's separate to your everyday account can be a huge help, because it's not just there readily accessible, because there's always something that we can be spending money on. Hope that one helps, Christy. What are your thoughts on young people getting started on their financial journey early? I love that. Ariana, yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, definitely. The sooner the better. I think it's great. We start to learn, start to build a muscle, and it's going to benefit from you for years to come. Can you talk briefly about how this would support entrepreneurs? Tilby, I'm not quite sure what you mean there. Feel free to just clarify there. Tara says, makes a lot of sense to explore psychological barriers to good decision making, unless it's pointless to think about your investments. That's exactly right. Yeah. Is there a place where you can view more of the case studies if covered? Let me see if I can find something and put into the Q&A there, Tara. I'll do my best while we're chatting. Got another one here from Lawrence that says, can you please display the pyramid again? There you go, Lawrence. Hope that one helps. I've been investigating, Haspreet says, I'm investigating $1,200, investing $1,200 a month for the last little bit. High return ETFs with capital of 400. I'm using dollar cost averaging. How can I improve returns? Look, yeah, it's hard to say on that, Haspreet, without looking at all of the details, I suppose. But yeah, I think that generally the most powerful part of investing is goes back to your strategy. So I would say that just making sure that you've got the best strategy possible, which you probably need to dive a bit deeper into than what we can just cover in this Q&A. Pardon the ignorance. What's RSU ESPP? Yeah, sorry, Wilma. That is basically employee share purchase plan that people have, but generally pretty common in tech companies. What is a good starting investment amount for someone who is just starting out and still young? Jody, I think starting with zero is fine. There are a lot of different apps these days that allow you to just get started straight away. So I would say that, yeah, you don't want to wait until you've got all of this money there, because then you can be waiting and missing the opportunity to get ahead. Of course, you need to have the right strategy in place, definitely. But yeah, you know, there's no time like the present. In fact, the best time to start was always 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Raquel says, is there any way to get help less than 150? Raquel, those sessions, feel free to drop us a note through our website. But those sessions are already fairly discounted. Plus, we donate the money to charity. So, and we do have some giving targets around that. But hit us up and we'll see. Where can I invest money? I'm just going to take a couple more, and then we'll go to more for based on your knowledge, what nets more money between investing in invest shares and real estate over a 10-year period? Well, historically, property has been shown to slightly outperform, but they are very close to together. So it really depends. But property has the benefit in terms of the gearing that sits there. Someone's asked about, says, thank you. As we donate 100% of this money for these breakthrough sessions, I think, to charity, how do we get paid? We run a financial planning business. We donate our time for these sessions because we know that it helps people. Plus, it helps us get in front of people that we may be able to help in the future. So these are not designed to make money, obviously, because we give the money to charity, but we do offer some other services that can help. Although these sessions, be aware that it's not one of these super high level pitch fests where you don't actually get any tangible information. So guys, look, thank you very much. I hope you got some good ideas out of that. A fair bit of ground to cover. We will shoot around the recording. Any questions, hit us up, Pivot Wealth website. Yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. Bye for now.